Howdy and hi, and welcome to Branches of Yah. Today, brethren, I want to talk about something that might have some of you running for the hills, but others might have noticed it and be thinking, what's going on? Well, as you see behind me, we got a famine of the word. You see the desolate desert. Brethren, things are changing. And I don't mean our country and all that. Of course, that's changing. I'm talking about things in the supernatural. I've been feeling something big for quite a long time. Our sister, YAHUAH, over at Ancient Path Remnant also. And there's things that are happening right now almost before my very eyes. Within weeks, I'll do a study and then go back, and the verses that I've known my whole life, or at least a good majority of it, and have done a recent in-depth study, even copied it and pasted it, and it's still in the copy and paste form from the original, because I took it straight from an app, put it on a Word document, to find that it is now different. The Word document's the same as what I put, but it is different in every version of Scripture, whether it be the internet or whether it be in the books. And I have an original 1611. It's a photostatic copy of the very original. I have every kind of Scripture you can think of. For study purposes, I have studies, and I have it in Aramaic, I have it, some of it in the German, I have it in, of course, Hebrew. But things are changing, and what's happening is these verses, and I'm not going to get into them now, but I wanted to remind you that we're to guard his Torah in our hearts. He wants it to be guarded, shamar, which I'll do something on Shema and Shamar and Shem and all that. It's all linked. But he wants us to guard his word in our hearts. He's told us in his word over and over again. So let's go to a couple verses so that we can see what he's talking about, because this is so important, brethren, that right now more than ever, that you guard what he has said in your hearts and be diligent about guarding it, because things are happening. I mean, it's really happening, and it's almost hard to keep up with. It's happening so fast. In Tehillim, or Psalm 1:2, it says, but his delight is in the Torah of Yahuwah, and his Torah he meditates day and night. In Tehillim 37:31, it says, the Torah of his Elohim is in his heart, his steps do not slip. And then in 40:8, it says, I delight to do your will. Oh, my Elohim, your Torah is within my heart. And YAHUAH, which is quoted in also in Hebrew or Hebrews, YAHUAH is what we call Jeremiah. But this is the agreement which I will make with the house of Yisrael after those days, declares Elohim, I will put my law within them, and on their heart I will write it, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. In Hebrew or Hebrews 8:10, it says, for this is the agreement I make with the house of Yisrael after those days, says Yahuwah, and I will put my Torah in their minds, and I will write them on their hearts. They're not one and the same. They're two separate things. And I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. It goes on in Romain, it says that for those who have not heard my Torah, I have written it within their hearts. So we know that whether you have heard it or not, it's written within us. And we saw that he writes his name within our very DNA, in our blood, the very building blocks of everything that we are. In Romans 2:15, it says, in those that show the work of the Torah written in their hearts, their conscience bearing witness, and their thoughts alternately accusing or else defending them. See there? It's written within us. It tells us the truth. Now, we've had our teachers. He sent teachers out into the world. He said to go out and teach everyone, make students of everyone. So he sent them. And now we were to shamar, we were to guard, protect, put a hedge of protection, fence them in our hearts, so that when these days came, that we wouldn't be shocked, that we would stand fast in his word. So I've talked briefly about what they're calling Mandela effect. You can call it DARPA, Large Hadron Collider. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I remember hearing a gentleman, supposedly a whistleblower, and I take everything with a grain of salt till I can bear it out for myself. So, but he was talking about how they were experimenting with technology that Tesla had figured out. Now, this was accessing everything through vibration and frequency, which we know everything has. And that they had figured out that they can manipulate things, past and, well, of course, present, if you can manipulate the past. And in doing so, they've been diligently working on that, trying to change the world into their own image. Of course, because in the flesh, if you're in your flesh, if they're in their flesh, they worship themselves. They are their greatest idol. Is look out for number one. That's the greatest idol everyone has. They worship that flesh. They're all about the flesh. They're all looking for revenge because of something that happened in the flesh. Everybody worships themselves. And so they decided that they were going to try to manipulate things. But what happened is, no matter how much they manipulated things, and no matter how many things changed, whether you want to call it a dimensional rift or however you want to look at this, that at some point, everything merged. And at that point, when everything merged, they could not change the outcome. In other words, there was an outcome they could not foresee, they could not see, they could not predict, and they could not change. That sounds like the hand of Yah. That sounds like when man has been fiddling around with things so much that finally the hand of Yah steps in. And then that's the end. But brethren, I'm telling you, things are changing. Your scriptures are changing. I'm already watching people fall away. People who know the true names, people who started following Torah are renouncing the Mashiach because there are key scriptures that have changed. I'll get into those another time. If you want to know, I'll tell you, but this is not what this scripture is about. But this is about you guarding it in your heart, keeping a hedge of protection around his words in your heart. Pray without ceasing. Ask night and day. And if you don't get an answer, keep asking. The reason we don't get is because we don't ask. And he says, pray without ceasing. He gave us the parable of the man who needed bread for his friends came into town. He went to the baker and they were closed. And he knocked and he says, we're already in bed. It's already too late. But he wanted that bread. He needed that bread. He needed it to give to his friends who come into town. He had nothing to give to them. We need that bread. We need the bread of the word. We need it, and we need to give it to people more now than ever. So we need to keep knocking. So he said, keep knocking, and he kept knocking, and he kept knocking, and he kept begging. And then finally he relented and he gave it to him because he knew it must be serious. This is serious. We need the bread of the word, and we need to safeguard it in our hearts. It's changing faster than I can keep up with. And I wish I were kidding. There was, I don't really watch Christian pastors or any Christianity at all, even blended Christian YAHUAH stuff. I don't typically watch it, but this guy was a full-on Christian pastor. I think he's fairly famous, maybe YouTube famous. I'm not sure, but I think he's fairly famous in Christian circles. Anyways, he did a big thing. This has been years and years ago. Matter of fact, I downloaded the video myself to keep it. I watched it several times when I was pondering these things. And he was talking about the Large Hadron Collider and how it was changing the word. And he gave some specific instances. And then he went into a long diatribe about how, they're trying to figure out how the house was built, and they got down to the glue, and now they're trying to, they're trying to take the glue and they're trying to melt the glue down and figure out what's in the glue. So they're trying to unglue the world that Elohim made. And in doing so, they're making a mess of things. Now, of course, we all know that if it's happening, it's because our Most High Father allows it. So he went into this, and he went into the scriptures, and he said, he asked him, he asked him to complete what is this scripture. And then they all said the correct one. And he said, well, now it's something else. And he goes into all of that. It's a fairly lengthy video. Well, I looked at it the other day. It's completely changed. 100%. Same, stand the same way, in the same place, talking to the same group. You can see some of their heads in the beginning. You hear them talking, the ones calling out. Only now it's exactly the opposite. Now it's, if man can change the word, then it's not sealed up in the heavens and in the throne room, and this is all false. These people are kooks. And exactly the opposite. Same guy, same date, everything on the video. So it's not a different video at a different time. And I'm not shocked by it, but some of you might be. So you're going to read scriptures, or somebody's going to tell you about this scripture, that scripture, Yahusha, Yahushua, whichever, you're using, the short or the long. They're going to tell you things about it, and they're going to say, no, it's this, no, it's that. And they're going to take you to certain scriptures. But I want you to know that hold on to the two greatest scriptures. When he says, love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and all that is within you, and love your brethren, your fellow, as you love yourself. Now, a lot of you say neighbor, but it really is your fellow. And then we are to be a light to all men. Because why? Because we want a light to his Torah, as it was for us, so that they're led back to him. And that's why we're to be a light to all men. We're to have compassion and kindness. We're to, even our enemies, we're supposed to forgive them. And we're supposed to love them. Don't show them hate, show them love. You're just heaping coals upon their heads. Whether they accept it or not doesn't matter. You just show it to them. Instead of seeking revenge, he says he'll take revenge. So we don't have to worry about it. But I think if we hold fast to those commands and hold fast to the Mashiach, our Father sent his anointed and appointed. That's what Mashiach comes from. Masar means. It means anointed and appointed. He sent him for us, that he would be our salvation, our deliverance, back to him, so that we would be within his favor. He showed mercy and loving compassion towards us. So hang on to those truths, hang on to those things. If everything else changes about scripture, hang on to that. That's the most important thing you can hang on to. But think about his name, think about his words, think about those things day and night. He says, when you lie down, when you rise up, and when you walk by the way, teach them and impress them upon your children. Write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. We're the house, we're the temple. So he says, let them ever be before your eyes. In other words, frontlet your thoughts. Let them be every thought that you have. And let them be, bound to your right hand, your work. Let them be in your actions. Share his word, his love. If they argue about all these other scriptures, don't worry about it. I just want you to know, brethren, I see a famine in the land, and I don't want you to be caught unaware. So I want you to store this up in the storehouse of your heart. Store his words and his love and the message that he brought. Even if the rest of it changes, that never will change. His love for you will never change. Don't worry about whether man has touched it or what man's doing and how it's affecting and seems supernatural. Don't worry about it. Keep those things in your heart. We see in Amos 8:11, he says, see, the days are coming, declares the Master Yahuwah, that I shall send a hunger in the land, not a hunger for bread, nor a thirst for water, but a hearing of the words of Yahuwah. And they shall wander from sea to sea and from north to east, and they shall diligently search, seeking the word of Yahuwah, but they shall not find it. We have to make sure that we're not the ones that are hungry. Let's store up his word so that we have something to share with everyone else when they're in despair and their hope is gone, when they're walking away from the Mashiach because some scriptures changed and now they think that they've been misled or they didn't understand scripture, even though they've read them a dozen times. Store up his word, store up his love, store up his light in your heart, and share it with anyone you can. If you don't have a YouTube channel, start one. If you can go out and when you talk to people, talk to them about it. If they won't hear you, move on to the next. Whatever you can do. Just remember to store it up in your heart. A famine's coming. There's more coming. Some big things are happening, really big. And it's starting to manifest really fast. So brethren, take heart, take his word, take the love of Yahuwah and Yahusha into your heart and tell everyone you can in any way you can. If you're shut in, like I said, start a YouTube channel. Doesn't take anything to do it. Just say a few words each day. Encourage, point them back to the Torah. Tell them about the two greatest messages. Well, we love you. I hope you look into these things. I hope none of you think this is crazy, and if you do, that's fine. But it's happening, and it's happening fast. So I just wanted to encourage you to store it up. Anyways, we'll talk to you again soon. I have many things to bring forth. We love you, and talk to you.